The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. This is Dave Hondel. Tonight, our guest is an award-winning comedian and actor who you've seen on Comedy Central, Showtime, all the major networks, and had his own TV comedy special as well. He's currently splitting his time between residencies in Las Vegas and the new Royal Caribbean mega ship called Icon of the Seas. And he's an absolutely hilarious comedian. So please welcome Mr. Paul Ogata to the show. Thanks for being here, Paul.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've been listening to a bunch of your podcasts, and it's a pretty interesting spin you've got. I like it.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate that. And you know, and I've been listening and watching you for a long time, but really digging into it in the last week. But I'm traveling the next 3 weeks. I'm taking 3 different plane flights, going to England, going to Toronto, going to Minneapolis. And as a comedian, I'm sure you travel constantly. When you travel to all these different cities, is there a particular city you like going to? Like, because I'm sure you travel to various different cities all the time, but is there one that you really love going to, and the crowds are I guess more rambunctious than others?
Well, over the course of the last 18 years or 16, 17 years, I've been doing a lot of shows in Hong Kong.
Oh,
And it's sort of become my second home, or
nice.
my third home, I guess. Hawaii is always my in my heart as my home, even though I get my mail in California these days. But Hong Kong has become like a second or third home to me. I love it. It's vibrant. It's kind of like New York City, where it's always something happening.
Yeah.
It's the city that never sleeps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know exactly. And that's one of the things. I mean, one place that I would love to go before it's all said and done is are the places of Hong Kong, Shanghai, and it just looks like a cool place to go. You know, the other thing, you're on Celebrity Family Feud as a comedian, and you know, when you're on that show, I mean, what was that like, that experience? Because I really love that show. My wife and I watch it all the time. So, well, how was your experience on that?
It's, the only thing I can tell you that has stuck in my soul from being on that show is, good Lord, Steve Harvey's teeth are immaculate. They are giant, gleaming, shiny alabaster car hoods that are smashed into his mouth somehow, and they are flawless. And it's a beautiful sight to behold.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a fun show, and believe it or not, back in the day when Richard Dawson was the host, I was able to go to a few of those shows in LA, and just so much different now, but it's still a great show, and I love. In fact, I even wrote to Mark Goodson, and he wrote me back and sent me a picture and signed this picture for me. That's how big fan I am of Family Feud.
When you were a kid, you wrote to the
I
producer
did, and he wrote me back.
TV
As a matter
show?
of fact, I just happen to have it right here. There it is. Mark
That's
Goodson.
crazy.
Isn't that funny?
What?
Yeah.
They would always say, Mark Goodson, Bill Todman
That's right.
production at the end of every game show. That's
There's
crazy.
my proof. So, you know, as when you're on like your TV special, when you were doing that, first of all, talk about how you got that, and second of all, you know, that must have been just an amazing, moment for you to get up on the stage and just national televised and getting in front of like just that, and the audience seemed like they were really with it. So, you know, talk about that experience too.
Well, it was a pretty interesting thing. It was Comedy Central not only has branches in the United States, but globally as well. They've got Comedy Central Africa, they've got Comedy Central Asia. And so Comedy Central Asia wanted to start shooting stand-up specials. And they reached out to one of the big promoters in the region, who then contacted me and asked me if I'd like to shoot one of the specials. It ended up being the first of the half-hour specials that they shot. And it was amazing because it aired everywhere except America, which was not what you want as a comic. But it aired on Comedy Central Asia, and it aired in, from what I could tell, it aired in Comedy Central Africa. I was walking around in Beijing when I was doing shows there, and an African fellow just stopped me in the street. He was like, "You're the comedian, man," and he's like, "I saw you on the television."
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
it played everywhere except America, but
Oh,
that's fine because I have a bigger fan base abroad than I probably do here in America. Having
yeah.
performed in Hong Kong over the last 17 years, Malaysia, Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing,
Wow.
Australia. Uh,
Yeah.
but I will say this, Comedy Central flew me out to Kuala Lumpur in Cathay Pacific first class. And my friend, that's what you need to sit in.
Yeah.
International first class. Domestic first class seems like a torture device, like an Iron Maiden
Yeah.
compared to international first class.
I'm
It's
sure.
amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just I mean, have your own special like that, and just to be on like all the major networks. You've been on every network, and also the Late Late Show on CBS, and besides Comedy Central. I mean, just it's just amazing to. I mean, as a comedian, I guess that's the goal, right? Is to be on all the networks, or to be on one of the big late night shows, and so I think that's really really cool. And that you've also been in some movies, so talk about being in movies, because also as a comedian, just to be in a movie is also one of the goals, right? To be in a movie.
Sure. I'll dial it back a little bit to you were talking about that's getting on TV is what you want. That's you still do, obviously, as an
Yeah,
entertainer or a comedian. You definitely want to get on TV, but I think the game has changed uh, in the modern world because now people are getting famous off of TikTok or
yeah,
uh, social media, Instagram, and bypassing the gatekeepers in charge of putting people on late night talk shows or a Comedy Central special. And it's interesting to see the industry scrambling to try and adapt to that. So, uh, yeah, it's still cool to get on TV, but I think if you're starting out, you definitely want to build a fan base through social media first. That way, you don't have to rely on somebody, the tastemakers or the gatekeepers or the whoever these industry people are that are in charge of that sort of thing. So my career has been kind of an endless series of amazing opportunities that kind of ended up in a dead end. Like you mentioned, movies. Damon Wayans was producing, writing, and directing and starring in a movie, a passion project of his own. About it was a drama about the world of stand-up, and one of the co-producers was Jamie Masada. He owns the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, and I was still living in Hawaii at the time, and Jamie Masada uh, was gracious enough to let me fly up every now and then and do spots at his club in Los Angeles. Well, when Damon Wayans was looking to do this movie, he was looking to cast an Asian comic. And so Jamie reached out to me and he said, "Buddy, can you get on a plane tonight and come out here to film the movie?" So I did. And it was quite an experience because I'd never done a movie before. I'd never shot a TV show before, a drama or
right.
whatever it is. So it was an interesting experiment to see what goes on in the making of that. And I got my SAG card from that, which I
Oh,
guess is,
great. Yeah,
yeah. And now I get all the DVDs at awards time and I get the free movies. But
that's so cool.
uh, yeah, so the movie itself is called Behind the Smile, and it was a compendium or an amalgamation of all the stories that Damon Wayans experienced himself in his journey through stand-up comedy. And so in the movie, there's a Mitzi Shore character. Mitzi Shore was the owner of the Comedy Store who uh, was instrumental in the careers of so many comedians, probably most of the comedians that you've heard of uh, from the 70s and on.
Right.
She was instrumental in making them happen. So she would always change people's acts and tell them what kind of character they were going to be on stage at her club. So in the movie, the Mitzi Shore type character is played by the actress Cameron Manheim, and she tells me, "Oh, you're going to be a karate man. After every joke, you're gonna do a karate move." Uh, which I guess that might have happened with Asian comics in the 70s where she might have made them do that. But
Yeah.
uh, ultimately, the film, I think, also starred Marlon Wayans. And I think he turned in an amazing dramatic performance in that. And unfortunately, it only played once at the HBO festival in Aspen, Colorado. And it showed a couple of times at the festival, and then I guess either Damon never got distribution for it, or maybe he didn't seek to pursue it further. But that was the my big movie shot, and it ended up locked in a cabinet somewhere.
Do you find that, and this is the question I really wanted to have I had Josh Blue on one time, but I wanted to ask a comedian this question that do you find with like now with social media and TikTok and people scrolling through and seeing 10-second, 20-second, 30-second clips and then moving to the next one, because when I grew up, there was comedy concerts like, Andrew Dice Clay and Eddie Murphy and, these comedy concerts that people just went crazy over. People would watch them and rent them and pay, pay-per-view to see these things. That's a thing of the past. You don't see that a lot anymore. I think Kevin Hart was one of the last people that really did a big concert on TV like that. And it seems to me like, do you think that has an effect on why we don't see a lot of that anymore because people don't have the attention span like they used to?
I think it definitely still exists. You've got Gabriel Iglesias, who sold out Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him live in Las Vegas at the Mirage, and it was like a rock concert. He allowed me to hang out in the green room, and so I was watching from the side of the stage, and he would start a joke, hold the microphone into the crowd, and the crowd would finish his joke because they knew it and they loved it so much.
Yeah.
It was a sight to behold.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing still happens. Russell Peters selling out arenas.
Yeah.
I think, but definitely the social media, TikTok, short attention span thing is helpful for that. But it's also, I think, damaging to society.
Yeah.
It's there was a Bruce Willis movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but in the future, a dystopian future, people would just sit on the couch with their headsets on, like a VR thing, and live their life through that. And society started spiraling down the toilet because of that. And I think you can see that happening with people just glued to their phones. You go to any restaurant, people aren't even interfacing with each other. They're not
Right.
speaking, having conversations. They're looking at the next thing on their feed. So I
Right.
think it's damaging to society, but very helpful to comedians or entertainment in general, I think.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Comedy, I think more than anything, because, I think most people scroll through to see something funny, and it's not even comedians all the time. It's like regular people doing funny things, and so I think it really has changed the game though, because, like I said, when you grow up, we didn't have anything in our hands. I mean, we were outside playing, football or baseball or whatever until you couldn't see anymore. And then we'd come in and then listen to cassettes of Eddie Murphy and, Andrew Dice
Yes.
Clay, right? Cassette tapes. That's what we grew up on, and throw it in the boom box or your Walkman, which was a real thing, by the way, you listeners, you youngsters. So I think, it's kind of evolved over the years, but, as a comedian, what was the first time when you walked up on a stage? It had to be frightening. I mean, that's one thing I have a lot of respect for comedians, because it's not like you're singing, you're not, performing in that way, but you're telling jokes that, very well could do well or very well might not do well. And if it doesn't, it's got to be nerve-wracking, especially when you first start out. So, did you ever have an experience like that where your material didn't hit right away?
The very first time I did comedy, stand-up comedy, was at a comedy competition at the university that I was going to, University of Hawaii. And I had never done it before. It was always something I enjoyed watching on TV, but it intrigued me and I wanted to do it. So I snuck away from the dorms. I didn't tell anybody, and I went up there, and it was exhilarating. It was just mainlining adrenaline, and there's no drug in the world that can make you feel as good as comedy can make you feel when things are going right.
Right.
And the counter side to that is there's no drug that can make you feel as bad as comedy can make you feel when things aren't going well. The very second time I did comedy was at the local comedy club after the competition. I thought, this is something I enjoy, and it's something it looks like I'm good at. So I went to the local club, and the Australians have a very colorful saying, I died in the ass. It's just,
Oh, it died in the ass.
we'll beep that out. But it was horrible. It was terrible. Went down in a ball of flames, and didn't do it for a while after that.
Wow.
Uh, but there's that thing. Once you got that
Yeah.
high
You
of
got
the
to go back to
laughs,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it dragged me back in, like Al Pacino in Godfather 3. It pulled me back in,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
was the no better feeling than when the crowd is vibing to the thoughts in your head that you
Right.
shared with them.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I remember seeing George Carlin back in the day, and I was lucky enough to see him in front row in Vegas one time, and that was like, for me, it was a chance of a lifetime to see, one of my comedic heroes back when I was growing up. So yeah, when especially like when you have fans, I mean, I'm sure you have fans from years ago that just keep following you around, and that's also has to be kind of gratifying too, to see them at other shows, multiple shows, and that they're following, and then maybe introducing, them to, or you to, like, their kids and that type of thing. So I mean, that's got to be gratifying.
It is. We're in the odd business in stand-up comedy of asking people to like us. I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything else like that. The person who works the counter at the 7-Eleven, it's a simple transaction. You
Yeah.
you pay for your hot dog and you leave. But with stand-up comedy, man, it's almost desperate. We're like, please like me,
Yeah.
please like the things that I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So when people do uh, rally around you and enjoy your jokes or your comedy, I feel validated, because it's not a career that parents sort of want to steer you into.
Right. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not.
Yeah.
I drew up a flow chart once. It says, "Shall I do stand-up comedy? Advice from your parents." And it says, "Can you do anything else?" If it's no, then it says, "Learn to do something else." And if it's yes, then it says, "Do that."
Yeah.
So parents in general aren't going to want you to
To be a
do,
comedian. Yeah.
yeah, or
Yeah.
live entertainment. Nobody wants their
Anything.
kid to
Yeah. I
be a
mean,
juggler
actors,
or a
singers. Yeah, for sure.
magician. But just to have people say, you did good, and we appreciate what you do, that's a
That's
beautiful
it.
thing. And
Yeah.
over time, people have come to shows with gifts. I don't, please don't. But if you do, I appreciate it. Some people have brought me bags of boiled peanuts.
Oh,
People have brought me. They made. I don't know if you remember Karate Kid 2, where they had the Japanese drum that they spin on the stick, and
yeah.
the swoop.
Yep.
Anyway, these girls put my face on the drums, and they brought in homemade drums like that one
Oh,
time.
wow.
So
That's interesting. Well, I mean, unique
I
for
do
sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah. What about hecklers? I mean, I'm sure you've had hecklers at some point during your career, and how do you handle that?
I think the hecklers change over time. In the beginning, it's malicious, and the hecklers, they smell fear, they smell the newness
Yeah.
uh, in you. If you're a comedian that's starting out, and they're seizing on that opportunity to bully you. But the more you do it, the better you get at this. The hecklers change, and it's now people that are trying to help. They want to try and uh, be a part of the show rather than trying to destroy the show. And there, you'll
Yeah.
still get the occasional person who's has malicious intent,
Yeah.
but I think more often these days it's people that think. Because as a comedian, I like to poke the tiger. When I'm on stage,
Yeah.
I'll engage with the crowd. I'm not there reciting material out of a book, A to
Right.
Z verbatim.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic thing, and I like to play around. So I'll ask questions, and sometimes it'll take a weird turn, and the people want to uh, steer their show in a different direction. So it's only rarely does it end, or does it not end badly. But I had a guy try to kill me once at a show with an empty wine bottle. He
Are you serious?
was sitting in the front row of the show, and this was in Hong Kong, and the USS George Washington came into port. The first night, the XO, the executive officer of the ship, came with his staff, and he enjoyed it. So he went back to the ship, and he told the sailors, "Oh, you got to go see this guy at the local comedy club in Hong Kong." So the next night, the room was packed out with sailors, drunk because they're on shore leave.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's a guy in the front row who drank at least one bottle of wine because it was empty. And he was one of those malicious hecklers that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And I kept shutting him down, uh, like whack-a-mole. You stick his head up, you hit him with
Right.
the hammer and send
Yeah.
him on his way. But I guess he took that personally, and he stood up, grabbed his bottle, and swung it at me. And I stepped back, but I felt it sort of graze my shirt. So if I hadn't stepped
Wow.
back, he would have clocked me. Um,
That's
but
crazy.
yeah, sometimes it ends poorly, but I hope it ended well for him, because a guy like that, he could have lost his career later that evening doing something dumber than that
Yeah.
in a foreign country.
That's just crazy. Wow. This was in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was.
Wow. That's why I'm glad he didn't connect with you. That's for sure. That's crazy. You almost didn't get into comedy. I understand that you actually at 13 you created a video game, and that's pretty cool. Like at the age of 13, how like what did you want to get into?
Well, I was always a techie nerd kind of guy. When I was a kid, I didn't really have a lot of friends, and uh, so I stayed in tinkering with gadgets. I'd get radios or walkie-talkies, and I'd disassemble them and see what made it work and try to put it back together. And then when I was a kid, I went and took a computer programming class as a what was I in the I don't know the seventh grade, but I was at a college
Yeah.
learning how to program, and I thought, well, I want to learn programming so I can make my own games.
Yeah.
And I learned it back then. It was Stone Tool, was my friend. I programmed in Basic. That was the language, Basic, and it was. Uh, and here's why I bought the computer I did. Back in the day, it was the big computers, I think, were Commodore 64s or the Radio Shack
Yeah.
Tandy TRS 80s. But there was a Texas Instruments computer called the TI 99 4A, and I really was drawn to that because of the spokesperson was Bill Cosby. And back in the day, this
Yeah.
guy's credit was unimpeachable. He was
Right. Yeah.
America's dad.
That's right.
And I thought, he couldn't steer me wrong.
Right.
I'm going to go get this computer. Saved all my money as a kid, got this
Yeah.
computer. And it was like I said, Stone Tools. If we didn't have a disk drive, I had a tape cassette recorder. That's how I stored all the data on this
Wow.
computer. And
Wow.
the game that I wrote was called Catching Up. And here's the brief synopsis of it. Severed heads would fall from the sky, and your character would run around back and forth trying to catch the heads. And if
Before
too
they fell.
many,
Yeah.
if too many heads hit the ground, your head would pop off, and then
That
you'd
would be
die
the
and game
game.
over.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's a
I
great
think
premise.
we're all lucky that my computer game programming career never took off.
Well, that was interesting. That's an interesting. So if I ever see that, then we have you to credit.
Yes, then somebody heard your podcast and stole this idea.
There you go. Stole the idea. Having a residency both on the cruise ship and in Vegas. I mean, being in Vegas itself, performing has got to be amazing, because most people that go to Vegas are there for entertainment. I mean, they're there to laugh, to see shows, and to gamble. And do you see that your crowds there are pretty lively as opposed to other places that you play?
Yeah. For example, just 2 nights ago, I did a show in Japantown in Los Angeles, and it was a benefit for a community center. And so all of the audience was like 80 to 90-year-old Japanese American people who were donors for this community center.
Sure.
And it's 80 to 90-year-old anybody isn't going to be the best comedy audience, but these are 80 to 90-year-old Japanese Americans, which made them infinitely worse as a comedy audience. Even if they were having a good time, they'd probably just nod and that's it. But in Vegas, it's the complete opposite. Like you said, it's the entertainment capital of the world, and people come there to have fun. They go there to drink, to laugh, to excess, and
Right.
it's great shows. I've been lucky to get in with some really good clubs out there. If I'm usually at the MGM Grand at Brad Garrett's comedy club
Oh, nice.
there, who's been a really good friend and supporter of mine, and I'm eternally grateful to him. And this year, I started doing shows with Cirque du Soleil at the New York. It's a show called Mad Apple. So in the middle of this big show where there's acrobats and singers and
Yeah.
contortionists, but halfway through, I come up through a hole in the ground and just do 10 minutes of comedy, and then I vanish through the hole in the ground, and that's it.
That's amazing. I had Tony Basil on one time, and her mom used to do vaudeville, and talking about that sounds like an old vaudeville act, because they used to do several different things in the same act, and it just entertained people, during the Depression, and that's what people needed, a release from whatever they're going through. And you would see dancers and singers and jugglers and people, Three Stooges. I think I went through, did vaudeville at one point. So I think that that sounds like a great premise, and I've never seen a Cirque du Soleil show in live, but it sounds like something I would love to see. I mean, that sounds like an amazing premise.
Yeah, most people when they hear Cirque du Soleil, they think of the fancy, freaky French Canadian type
Yeah,
of things where there's a storyline and there's
yeah,
acrobats, et cetera, et cetera. This is more of a New York style variety show, so there is sort of a through line, but it's like America's Got Talent, but on weed and steroids.
there you
And
go. Yeah.
I guess I'm.
Well, it
This was not
sounds. I
cleared
mean,
by
they usually
corporate for me
sell
to
out
say.
shows, so I'm assuming that's the same as well. With your career, I mean, you obviously have had a lot of success, and for our listeners who are maybe not comedians, but they might be in the arts of some kind. What kind of advice would you have? Just as a somebody independent, just starting out. What kind of advice can you give somebody like that?
You have to really want to do this. You have to really love to do this. There's no maybe or well, wonder perhaps. No, because it's there's heartache ahead, my friend. There's
Yeah.
hard times and struggles, and if you're not all in, you're gonna flame out, and you're gonna wonder, oh, why me? But it's the reward is in the doing it itself. Obviously, not everybody is going to be a Kevin Hart. I'm certainly not a Kevin Hart, but I I do well enough for myself. It's it's allowed me to pay all my bills with comedy, and I enjoy it. It took me a long time to get there, uh, but I think if you truly love it, you will find a way to make it work. Make the sacrifices. Bet on yourself. There are so many people working against you. Don't be one of them.
Yeah.
Be the person that's going to stand up for you in your corner. Uh, you are your best advocate, and if you're not going to believe in you, then no one will.
And just never give up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally give up. I gave
Occasionally.
up a few times. I wish I could
Yeah.
have that time back,
Yeah,
but
but you didn't, because, people, I think that giving up is the wrong word. Uh, Taking breaks is fine, when especially in the artistic fields. I mean, you have to take mental breaks once in a while, because the creative process is hard, and it takes a toll. But to get back into it and jump on the horse again, I mean, that's just taking a break. That's all. That's why I look at it anyway.
yeah, you can Simone Biles it, but
Yeah. There you go.
don't. You know what is interesting to see? You'll see a comedian get famous by doing movie roles, and then sometimes that comedian never does stand-up comedy anymore.
Right.
They just stick with acting, and that makes me wonder: did that person really ever truly love doing stand-up? Because I'll tell you, Hollywood, if you're listening, if you ever cast me in
Yeah.
many movies, I'm still going to do stand-up. If I win the Mega Millions
Right.
lottery, I'm still going to do stand-up.
Right.
I'll do it more on my terms, though.
Right.
I'm going to show up out of a hole at Cirque du Soleil
Yeah.
10
There you
times a
go.
week, but
Yeah.
I'll still do it, and because I love doing it, and
Right.
that's truly what you got to do. You have to love it in order to do this.
And your passion, I mean, that's your passion. And like anything else, even if you're not making money at it, if it's something you love to do, listeners, don't stop doing it. Do it because you love to do it. It's like playing golf or whatever else people enjoy doing. If that's what your passion is, to do the arts, then don't ever stop doing it. And, eventually you'll start making money at it if you do it long enough. So just never get up. So that's great. That's great advice, Paul. And also before we go, how can people find you? I mean, you have a website?
Sure. You can find me at paulogata.com, paulogata.com. You can find me on TikTok at Paul_Ogata. I got there too late. That's why I have an underscore.
Underscore? Yeah.
It's so unfair. This should be assigned to you
Exactly.
at birth. You should
Yeah.
get a social media handle at birth. Anyway,
Yeah.
and if you're on my website, paulogata.com, you can find me. There's links to find me everywhere else as well.
And you have tour dates on there as well. I noticed, when I was on there. But before we go, what do you want your legacy to be, Paul? What do you want people to think of when they think of Paul Ogata when it's all said and done?
I want people to think back to when they came to the show and laugh themselves silly, just remembering the good times they've had at the show. And if I can do that, it's a victory. I did a show once, private show in Los Angeles, and after the show, it was at a guy's house, which I thought was weird. But after the show, this woman and her daughter came up and they said, "You know what? She lost her husband, the girl's father, a couple of months before, and it was obviously and understandably a difficult time for them. But this was the first time in a couple of months that they laughed and they smiled and they enjoyed life again."
Yeah.
So if I can get anybody to briefly, however briefly, enjoy life again, then I feel successful.
Yeah, well, that's a great legacy, and it makes total sense. And we all need to laugh, and so I know you make us laugh, and thank you for all the years of that laughter, Paul. And and everybody check out paulogata.com, and love to have you back on the show again, Paul, and just keep us updated. And I hope you have a great rest of your week, and again, best of success to you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me here. I had a good time. This is great. It's like therapy. I love it. Thanks.